And it reminds me when you were talking about that, about something Stephen Covey used to say a lot. He used to say the main thing is to keep the main thing the
Yeah,
main thing. And I just love that. Yeah.
he's right. He's absolutely right. Yeah.
It is my pleasure to welcome one of the originals, one of the guys that's been doing this a long time, teaching thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe, I don't know how many, but a lot of people how to invest in properties over the years. You've heard his name. You've probably seen him on television before, and that is none other than Ron LeGrand. Ron, welcome. How are you?
My pleasure, sir, and I am fantastic.
Well, it's good to have you here. It's good to have you here. So we met in a mastermind group, and
Yeah.
lately I've been talking a little bit about the importance of people joining a mastermind group. And have you been in many? Do you have one of your own? I am wondering if you do.
I have two of my own. I've had three of my own at one time, and I'm actually a member of two others and have been for as long as I can remember.
Right.
Dan Kennedy's mastermind group in 1997. The first I was a member until he quit.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Dan Kennedy, another very famous guy, more on the marketing side, and you're more on the investing side. So good stuff. But yes, the value of a mastermind group is super valuable. And that's where I met you and have met so many other influential leaders in this space. So it's great to have you on the show. So Ron, if we could distill, you've had such a long career and you've just done such a great job at teaching people how to invest, teaching them about the opportunities with rental properties and investment properties and so forth. What is your sort of core philosophy or strategy, or, maybe what are the top two or three?
Well, for one thing, I've learned over the years that the less I do, the more I make. In fact, I even wrote a book called that. Because it's true, and many people live their entire lives and never figure out that the less you do, the more you make, meaning get out of your own way, let other people do the things they need to do so you can focus on your business from a 30,000-foot view, and not got caught on the minutia, because minutia kills careers and it kills revenue. And if you don't work on getting the minutia out of your life, I tell everybody that the one thing that you need to do is just make decisions, and you can delegate everything else. And frankly, you'll get to the point where you can even delegate the making decisions. I run 2 or 3 businesses that I don't hardly do anything in. I'm global publishing, the business that does all of our real estate training. I'm the pretty face there, Jason, let's face it. But that's about, I teach. And honestly, that's pretty much all that I do. The rest of it is done by others.
Mm-hmm.
Get that way. I had to decide to turn loose and let other people do what they do best, get the hell out of their way and let them do it. That's not an easy thing, especially for a man to do. So that was a hard lesson for me, very hard lesson for me, actually. It took me a lot of years to get to the point to where I could actually come to the conclusion that I ain't all that special.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got their skills and talents, and your skill and talent is a very sought after one and a very highly paid one. So you shouldn't be doing stuff that's not your skill and talent, right? There are other people that are better at those things. And it reminds me when you were talking about that, about something Stephen Covey used to say a lot. He used to say the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And I just love that. Yeah.
He's right. He's absolutely right. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Well, what about investing though? That's about running your own business, which, great advice for business people, but techniques for real estate investing, philosophies toward real estate investing, maybe give us a little background. How did you get into it?
Well, I've done it all. I started in 1982, dead broke as a mechanic, and went to a real estate seminar, which led me to another real estate seminar. And 3 weeks after that 2-day training I went out and I did my first little $3,000 deal, life changer for me. The difference between me and most folks is that I kept on doing it instead of going back to the norm. And next thing you know, I was doing deals right and left, quit my job immediately, which I do not advise anyone to do. Don't cut off your cash flow to go do something you haven't done before. And then I just started doing them. And over the years, people kept asking me what I was doing. So I started teaching in 1987. And then that grew into the business that we have today called global publishing. but I started from hunger. I didn't have anything to work with. I had no rich family. I had no IRA. I had no working spouse. I had none of that stuff. So that was a good thing because I had very little choice, either go do it or go back and get a job. And I just couldn't stand the thought of getting a job. But today, there's really three things that people think of the real estate, the residential real estate component, which is mostly what I teach, but I do commercial as well. In fact, I'm working on commercial deals as we sit here. One is wholesaling houses, just flipping them. So I get the contract, flipping the house. Thousands of those are being done across the country. You and I are in a mastermind group, or probably half of them are wholesalers. Some of them do 200 deals a year. And then there's rehabbing and retailing, and usually wholesalers get around to doing that as well. And I've done all of that, at least 1,000 of each. And then there's the pretty house or the terms business, which is my favorite by far, which is what I specialize in today. And I teach because it's the big wealth builder, and it has a lot of advantages that the other two don't have. So buying on terms and selling on terms is frankly the fastest way to get wealthy in the single family house business. And wholesaling and rehabbing have their place. You get a check, but when you get a check, you're done. You have to go back to work. There is no residual income. There is no depreciation or appreciation or debt pay down or long-term capital gains or any of the goodies that I get by putting tenant buyers in the houses and not just selling them. In today's market, I mean, I've never seen a market like this. And Jason, you and I have been around a long time. I have never seen a market like this. And I've seen them all, from good to bad to beautiful like today. Today's market, selling it certainly isn't an issue. It's a matter of, frankly, you put them on the market today, you're probably going to get more than what they're worth. And it's a bait time to sell, but I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell because the golden goose keeps laying the golden eggs.
Right.
But I cut off something that's going to keep being worth more and more and more, keep producing revenue, lowers my taxes, and time I make a payment, my debt goes down. So when I do cash out, and by the way, I teach people how to cash out without paying taxes on the real estate. It's just a learned craft like anything else, but it's a whole lot easier than most businesses. I used to have restaurants. I've had 6 restaurants. Now that's, I think everybody else go buy one.
That's a lot of work.
It's so they can see how easy real estate is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet.
I would agree with you. The restaurant business is a tough one. You know, there's an old saying, you can either have price or terms, but not both. Of course, we've all heard that one. And so your terms business, and you've got a webinar, by the way, we'll give out a link for toward the end where people can learn more about it. But basically the idea there is you buy a property and you put a tenant buyer into the property, right? Who might ultimately become the owner. Now, is that different from a rent to own or a lease option, or is it the same essential thing?
It is a lease option, Jason, but it's different when we do it. On Planet Ron, everything's different. In Texas, you have no choice. You have to sell it with owner financing if you buy it with owner financing, because they don't do the lease option thing. But any other state, you can do a lease option. So let's say your house is a $500,000 house, and you agree that I can make your payment till sometime in the future when you expect to get paid off. It means I'm buying your house with owner financing. And I'll buy your house with owner financing. I'll put a tenant buyer in it, but the tenant buyer is going to give me a multi-$1,000 non-refundable option deposit. And the higher price the house, the bigger that deposit's going to get. So if your house is worth $500,000, there's no way I'm going to hand anybody the keys unless they got at least a $50,000 non-refundable deposit. Non-refundable means they don't get it back if they move. They put it toward their down payment if they buy. Clearly spelled out, closed with an attorney in great big letters, you know.
Right.
That's important because that's an immediate income stream to my student. They get to keep that money, do whatever they want to do with it. They don't have to put it in the escrow account like a realtor or anything like that. It's their money. The day they get it, they can go spend it. Now, in addition to that, my tenant buyers do all the work themselves. They are responsible for all the repairs. It's a condition of their option. So we put them in the house and I raise the prices. I was raising the prices long before this current thing we're in today, but I raise the prices sometimes as much as 10%. So I put your house on the market for $549.9 and create my own value. And the value is what the buyer is willing to pay. So in my case, I'm catering to the 70% of the marketplace that can't qualify for a loan. So they can't be picky. I'm their gatekeeper. If they want to get in the house, then they can go through me, because I don't care if they qualify for a loan. In fact, if they qualify for a loan, they're not coming to me. They're probably
Right.
straight to the bank and get a loan. But anything that's broke can be fixed with time. If it's credit, I can get their credit score up 100 points in 6 or 7 months. That's not a problem. Or debt ratio, whatever it is, they got time. I'll put them in there for at least a couple of years. And to be honest with you, tenant buyers I got today, most of them have been in there longer than the 2 years. Because the reality is, Jason, most of them don't even ever cash you out. They wind up ultimately moving. Their choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So plenty of time. They just don't do what they need to do to get qualified for a loan, or they get tired of the house or figure they can't afford it or whatever.
So Ron, that was really interesting. And you're getting 10% of the value of the house in the example you used as the option deposit to move people in. What is sort of this, like, what'd you say?
I don't name the deposit. I let the market tell me how much they'll pay.
Okay, sure. But what is sort of the typical deal like? I mean, is it a $200,000 house, a $300,000 house, or is it just all over the board?
Well, the answer to that question depends on whether we're talking this year or last year or the year before,
Yeah.
No.
In today's numbers.
2 years ago, a typical house was a couple of $100,000 and up. I don't want the cheap junk. I want the nice stuff, and the better, the better, because of the size of the down payment and the monthly cash flow and all the other benefits. Today, that house is probably a $250,000 house. In most areas, it's going to be $250,000 and up. Okay. Some $250,000 won't buy the crack house. So, it depends on where you live.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a $250,000 house. And what do? You advertise, can't qualify for a loan, easy qualifying, or how do you market it?
Well, when I'm selling, they know immediately it's a lease purchase, no banks, weak credit, okay. So obviously that brings in an awful lot of calls. We also put out pointer signs to the house, and we use social media. It costs almost nothing to sell a house. And it's not about selling a house, it's about taking the highest bidder, because you ought to put a house on the market, nice house, nice neighborhood, use the word lease purchase and see what happens. Here they come.
Right.
So the people with the most money that can afford the monthly payment. And believe me, I don't ever tell them how much I need down or how much I want per month. They tell me what's the most you can pay per month, what's the most you can put down. I do name the price. That's it. So the market speaks, and they don't know it, but they're kind of a silent auction, Jason. They don't know that there's others bidding against them. So
right.
I'll take these calls, and Frank, I don't take them. They're taken by a 24-hour answering service. Taking calls is kind of a stupid thing for a real entrepreneur to do. That's delegated out.
Right.
Answering service asks them a couple of key questions, which determines whether one of my team needs to even call them back. They don't have any money, why call them back? So they're all pre-screened out. So there's very little work in selling a house. We don't even show houses. We send them to the house. There's a lockbox on it. We don't have to tell them where the toilet is. They can find that on their own.
Right.
But dream on their own. Now, remember, we're selling these things with no qualifying to a bank. Believe me, you don't have to put very many people through a house, and they're going to be begging you, I want to, please, can I buy it? And that'll depend on how much money they got and whether they got the income to support the debt. So it's a matter of picking the best one, and it's all automated. So there's one call with the buyer to get them in the house, and that's only if they got money, and then another call afterwards, and 3 or 4 days later they got the keys, because we're not qualifying any bank. We are the committee, and we do have a meeting and decide for sure if we want them. So it's a very easy process.
Sure. So Ron, by catering to this market of people who can't qualify for conventional financing, which by the way is a pretty big market, because
70% of the people who are looking to buy a house. Yeah.
And it's interesting, coming out of the Great Recession, rates are so low.
Yeah.
But the banks are so stringent. I mean, their qualifying criteria is getting ridiculous, which,
right.
I think is a good sign that, we're going to continue for a while, at least, with this market, because the banks have not taken a lot of risk this time around. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
underwriting.
I know you're of the opinion that we're not going to have a downturn in the very near future, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The truth is, when a downturn comes, it only gets better for us.
Right. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing about real estate. You can adjust your strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a recession-proof business.
It really is. Everybody needs housing for sure. So, Ron, you're getting a premium price catering to the market, and that's the option consideration of, say, 10% of the value. And are you getting more per month, or what does that
Yeah.
monthly look like? Is it all rent, or is some like rent and some is option consideration each month, or what do you do there?
No, it's all rent. None of their rent goes toward their purchase. If they want to purchase, they can go to the bank and get a loan.
Okay.
It's all rent. They're all clear on that going in.
Okay.
On a $500,000 house, it all depends on where the house is located. You know, you can go to rentometer.com and get a basic feel for what the rents are. They always pay more than that. Lease option tenant buyers pay more than straight tenants.
How much? Like, what's the margin there? Generally speaking.
It's case by case. There's no way to put a number on that. I know
Okay.
formulas, but you can't put a formula on that because it's what the market's willing to pay. What's the sellability of the house? Where's the house located? Is it in a really hot area? Is it in really good shape? Well, how hot is the market right now?
Right.
The market drives everything.
Sure.
So what do you think the payment would be on a $500,000 house if they went to the bank? Maybe $2,600-$700.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, the $500,000 house there would easily command a $4,000 rent in most places.
Right.
Quite often we get $1,000 a month spread between what we collect and what we pay. And don't take any of them to put one out of work, And remember, that's residual income. That can keep coming in for years. It's not a one-time thing. So I can be sick or on a vacation for 6 months and still have that money coming in. Just my favorite kind of income is residual income.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Yeah.
But this is residual income that is just rent, right? It's not, you haven't sold the property to them. You're not carrying paper or anything. You're just talking about rent.
That's right.
Right. But it's more reliable rent because they've got more skin in the game because they've paid that big lease option deposit.
That is why I don't worry about things like they're going to tear up the house. No, they're not going to tear up the house.
Mm-hmm.
They do have that big deposit at risk because if they default on the rent, then they're going to forfeit that deposit. That's all part of the sign in front of an attorney. Okay. Besides, somebody who put up a big down payment like that is a buyer. They got a buyer's mind. They act like buyers. They don't think like tenant. 1 month's rent. It's risk.
I agree.
Yeah.
And by the way, have you been able to, or even tried to get property managers to cooperate in this? We just find that the property manager is the obstacle all the time, and this is maybe one good, easy way to be self-managing your properties, even long distance, are you getting managers to participate in helping you do that?
Why on earth would I need a property manager to collect rent and make a payment?
I agree.
My internal bookkeeper, that's all we do. There are no repairs. There's nothing to manage. Right. By the way, it's all virtual today. Everything we do is virtual. It was virtual before COVID. Actually, the only thing I actually did was go out and look at the house. Still do that if it's local, but my students are buying houses all over the place, regardless of where they live, because we don't have to do that anymore. You can get videos of the house. We get somebody boots on the ground there and take a look for us, which is one of the benefits of a mastermind group. You can develop relationships all over the country.
I agree.
Like that. And remember, when I buy the house, I'm putting up very little or no money. You would be shocked at the number of deals we get with nothing down, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Down. As we ask the seller, we usually buy with nothing down, okay? And you'll be shocked how many of them come back and say, okay.
Yeah.
If they don't, okay, well, how close to nothing can you get?
Yep.
And we work with the people that we're going to get into with little or nothing down. So it's a numbers game.
Mm-hmm. So
it's just a matter of, and our virtual assistants get all the information. And then all my students got to do is do the closing call, which takes 2 minutes max, unless they get into a conversation. And we weed out the ones that want to work with us. And that is definitely the minority, not the majority. But, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 calls, you got a deal and that's your $20, $30, $40, $50,000. Compare that to running a restaurant, for crying out loud.
So I'm curious, though, I wanted to ask you about this, is on the sale, if your tenant buyer cashes you out, are they always cashing you out with conventional financing, or do you offer a seller carryback? Or, I mean, you like residual income, right?
I don't want seller carryback because the minute I sell the house, I lose depreciation, I lose appreciation, I lose debt pay down.
Right.
Goodies, man. Why would I do it?
Yeah.
And I mean, again, when I sell the houses for cash, I'm not going to pay taxes on them. I got 3 different ways to not pay taxes on them. I'd rather keep the golden goose alive. But on the other hand, I'm fully aware that some people need money like they need oxygen. Right. And I can certainly remember when that was me. And if that's the case, take the money. Take the money. What a great time to sell a house. Even though continue going up. If you need the money, sell a house, get the bank, because money in the bank is always going to override any of those other assets that you got. Can't get enough of that stuff.
Yeah.
So take the money. Besides, when you have money in the bank, you feel better, you think better, you act better, your relationships are better.
Yep.
You're not a pain in the ass to live with all the time because you're worrying about money.
Right.
Remember those days as well, you know?
Yeah.
Lack of money is the biggest cause of divorce in this country, indirectly, directly. Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
that's what I've been telling my listeners for years. Just take care of the money problem, get it out of the way. You everybody can do it. You just got to just take care of this thing.
Yep.
Life has enough problems. Just take care of the money one, get it out of the way.
Cash is king. So I always tell everybody, take care of today's needs and capital needs first, and then worry about building an empire. Right. You're not building an empire if you're broke.
Yep. So Ron, on the cash out, like what percentage of people are buying the properties from you? Do you have stats on that?
I can tell you from talking to all my students that it used to be about 10%, but now it's gone up because the money is out there so cheap.
Right.
Everybody's trying to get, some of them are losing as many as 20 to 25% of their properties.
Mm-hmm.
Whining about all the time about these great big monstrous checks they get. And,
right.
Whine. Go deposit the thing and go get another one for crying. And then, you hold it a year, it's long-term capital gains, even if you don't do any of the things, cool things you can do to cash out. But that's only on your profit. That's not on the whole sales price.
Yeah, and they can do 1031 exchanges. Just, I'm on my third exchange for this year. This has been a busy year for exchanges for me. Yeah. For my personal portfolio. Yeah. So any tips on, marketing these properties to find the lease option buyers or the tenant owners? You call them tenant owners, right?
Tenant buyers.
Tenant buyers.
Yeah, I told you what I do. I'm telling you, it ain't much. We put out pointer signs that have an arrow pointed to the house with a phone number in it, and it says right there, lease purchase, no banks, and points to the house. Well, we get a lot of calls off of those. You'll get more calls off of those than you will everything else you do. Actually, we put out about 15 per house from all directions, like the yellow brick road. Then there's a sign in front of the house with a phone number on it that goes to Pat Live for 24-hour service. They take the call, ask them 6 questions. What's the most you can put down? What's the most you can pay per month? And that will determine whether we call them or not. We do all the media stuff. I mean, there's a list of sites this long that you can put on social media. Obviously, we'd want to use all of those. Our virtual assistants do that for our clients. They don't even have to deal with that nonsense. And then the ads, you can run ads all over the internet for free, and then you can buy Google paid ads. But I'm telling you, I would not do that unless I can't get enough leads from all the other stuff. Darn well you can.
Can you do it directly? Can you do it directly on Zillow, or will Zillow not let you put those words in there?
It won't let you put some words in there, but there's sneaky ways around that.
Yeah. Okay.
Zillow is a very important website.
Yeah.
Still, with or without Zillow, I don't have to have Zillow. My virtual assistants even create the flyer, with the pictures of the house on it and the description of the house and what to do next and all of that. So that's why my students, it's an easy road up. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
Except take calls to people that are predisposed to do business with them and make sure the machine is running. I don't spend 2-3 hours a week buying houses, and I haven't for years and years and years. That's very hard for people to believe, but they don't understand. They don't understand that we don't do anything.
Sure. Yeah.
I decide who I want to buy it from in terms, and like if somebody else goes out to the house, get the contract signed, I decide who I want to sell to. I don't even sign the contract. My personal assistant does that, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not saying you're going to get there overnight, but working on it won't take where you can actually create a business that will bring in tons of revenue for you without sucking up your life.
Right.
Revenue is good if you don't have a life.
Yep, I agree. Time is the most important commodity. Money's the second most important. So we hear you there. So you're looking for that particular type of person who's got the situation where they've got a good amount of cash, 10% of the value of the house, but their credit is messed up, or they don't have consistent income that can qualify them, right?
Maybe. All right. Let's take your $500,000 house. Above the FHA limit in most places you are. I mean, that's $100,000 down payment required by the bank.
Yep.
Okay. I don't need 100. I'll take 50. Take time, get the other 50, and then go buy if you want. Or if their credit is bad, I can put them with somebody who cleaned it up. Debt ratio sometimes needs to be fixed. Sometimes they can't prove the income. They're self-employed, so forth. time to get some stabilization behind him. You know, I don't really care what the problem is. So I'm giving them plenty of time to fix it. And nobody's going to give me a great big check if they don't intend to buy the house, Jason. They
Right.
buy the house, and that's good. But unfortunately, most of them don't. Just that simple.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes they just get tired of the house and they want to move on because that's the way Americans are, man. We're flighty. We gotta keep moving.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes they just realize that they can't afford the house, perhaps. I don't know. I really don't know. They tell me they're moving. I don't ask them why.
Let's invite people to the webinar. Okay. Tell people a little bit about what they'll learn there. I mean, maybe we've covered some of it.
It's a training session. What it is this terms business step by step and how I do it. Shows examples. Of course, we got students on there as well showing their. I got testimonial letters that need a wheelbarrow to haul them around with. They're all over our building. But that's basically what it is. It's a whole training session on the terms business. And I go through it step by step, tell you exactly how I do it for both buying and selling, where we get the deals. And I even talk about the scripts that I use to talk to the seller once the virtual assistant has filled out the property information sheet, and then how to get out of the house, like you and I have been touching on here. So it's a pretty intense training. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long, I think. And then after it's over, you can send me questions and I'll answer them within 24 hours.
Good stuff. Well, Ron, anything else you want to share about investing, about career recommendations? I mean, you've built such a great business yourself. You know, just anything else you want to share as we wrap it up?
Well, the biggest mistake I see people making, Jason, is guaranteeing debt. I don't guarantee debt on Planet Ron. I don't want people going down to the bank and guaranteeing debt. I want to build a business that they can't lose. If you build your business so you can't lose, it's very difficult to lose. Guaranteeing debt. You risk your credit, you risk your assets, and your marriage. For what? To buy a house. We don't need to go beg for money to buy houses. That's why I love the terms business so much. We're either going to create the debt to the seller, or we're going to take over the seller's debt, one of the two, or we're going to lease it with an option to buy ourselves and then sublease it. We don't have to go raise capital. So this is a business that requires very little capital, closing costs for the most part, and no personal guarantees. And I want you to think about that if a recession hits again. I often tell my students the absolute worst that can happen to you is that you lose a house that you got for free and nobody's coming after you for the debt because you didn't guarantee the debt. And that can happen because people always have to have a place to live. You know, when the recession comes and prices go down, rents don't. Rents usually go up. So very, very stable, recession proof. So if we build a business right, we don't make promises we can't keep, we don't guarantee debt, and we use it to close, which are half the time are free because the other side pays for them. It's a business like none I've ever seen. It certainly beats the restaurant business. I'll tell you right now, I used to have one cost me $100,000 a month just to stay open, whether anybody came through the front door or not.
Right.
I have almost no overhead in this business, almost no overhead. It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. You know, we did not get time today to talk about acquiring properties. We talked more about how to structure this ongoing income once you get the property. So it can work with any property potentially, you know, if you have a property already and, you know, maybe you're doing a tenant turn right now, you could, instead of doing a traditional lease on that property, you could do this and you could have a tenant buyer.
Don't do that. You do a traditional lease. You don't get that big deposit, which is your only insurance policy, and you get to do the work. They get to do the work in my case.
Right. And by the way, I was going to ask you about that, Ron. So just one more thing before we go last minute here. You know, the tenants, since these are tenant buyers, they're treated almost like a homeowner, right? And you're not waiting on them or taking calls about repairs or things. Tell us about that.
We put them in the house. We hand them the keys. We don't hear from them unless they don't pay the rent, which is very, very, very rare. I've got tenants I haven't talked to in 10 years. I have no need to talk to them. I haven't seen the house 10 years. Well, why should I? They're still, worst case, they move out and they need some work. Well, trust me, they've more than paid for the work if it needs work. So I'll probably go fix it up and put it right back out there and get another big old deposit.
Right.
It doesn't require any babysitting. It doesn't require any, and if they call me by mistake and say my toilet stopped, I'll say, well, you need a number for a plumber. You know, it's our deal. You're going to fix that. And that deal is made very clear. It's part of our agreement. That's why I want with an attorney, so we have no misunderstanding.
Yeah. Every landlord listening to this, and there are thousands of them, is probably thinking, wow, that sounds pretty great.
Well, it is great. I know for a lot of years I did it the other way. It sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, man, at one time I had 276 HUD tenants, if you can just imagine. HUD. I'll never have another HUD tenant. I'll never rent a house, period, unless it's a lease purchase, even down into the war zones. It makes no sense. Why would? Because I can lease option them and get money and get rid of the repairs. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. Okay, folks. So that link for the free webinar will be in the show notes, the one we mentioned before. So you can just click on it right there and take advantage of that. And Ron LeGrand, thank you so much for all your wisdom. Appreciate it.
It is my pleasure, sir.